Are you ready to take back America?
Do you believe?
How's everybody doing? I am Jeff Royds.
That's how we'll bring an end to the Iraq War.
And I gotta tell you, after standing up with them, some of these people frighten me.
This is kind of my workstation, my keyboard, and kind of like my little collection of things that I've done over the years. Some of the CDs of some of the artists that I've worked with, and the T-shirt from our 4-year anniversary bash when I was with NEGB1. Celestial Effects was kind enough to donate the money to pay for the T-shirts because they're expensive. And then our first T-shirts I ever made for the 2-year anniversary when it was Boston Garage Bands. I made those myself, about 85 of them in my living room the night before the show. It was a lot of work. And then the original Boston Garage Bands, every band has a story T-shirt that when I first started making T-shirts for this whole muck-a-roll that has become what it is, it's that. So I don't know, just kind of just represents a little bit of me, everything that I'm kind of involved in and that I like, and that kind of makes me, I guess. Grew up in Waltham, Massachusetts. Got my start in music when I was about 12 years old. My grandfather had an old Casio keyboard, like everybody's parents had, kind of tucked underneath the couch and stuff like that. I went over for a birthday party, and I was just playing around with it and heard something that sounded like Happy Birthday, and I just started playing it and ran out and started playing Happy Birthday to everybody, and it just kind of went from there. And my dad bought me my first keyboard about a week later. Went down to Belmont Music in Belmont. I think it's Belmont. Yeah, it's Belmont Music. It's still there actually. And he got me a keyboard. It's a Seal MK490. I remember it well. It ran on batteries. It had a little handle on it. It was very cheesy, but it served its purpose. And I've been playing music ever since. Since the age of 5, I wanted to be a radio DJ. And I did that in 1997. I got a job up in Nashua at WHOB, B106.3, which is now Frank, I think, one of the 6.3. Did that, was there overnights on the weekends for a little while, and then I moved down to Webster to 98.9, which was the bus back then. It was a classic rock station. And then another station came in that had a bigger signal and bigger budget and bought us, and everybody kind of got fired, as it is in the life of radio. And my wife and I at the time had just had a baby and were just trying to make a career, and needed money, and there's no money in radio unless you want to travel the country and do things like that. So I kind of gave up radio for a little while. It killed me, but I had to do what I had to do for my family. So I could say I did it. I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and I did the whole thing. I worked for Julie Kramer, and she was at FNX, and that's where I got my internship. That's where I got my start, and she pretty much is the reason why I'm doing everything that I'm doing right now. She's one of the main influences in my life. Professional musicians that got me into music and my style, I'd probably say Billy Joel and Van Halen and Mozart, which is kind of a different twist on things. For local musicians that really got me back into music, I had stopped for a little while, and got me back into playing music would be artist out of New York, Marcy Lang. She used to be in Boston. It's a good friend of mine. And Chris Ross, who is an amazing local musician. He had an open mic that he ran every Sunday night at Cole's Tavern in Franklin, and I hadn't played out in years, and I just started playing guitar. And on my 30th birthday, he was away for the show. He couldn't do it, so he asked a couple of us if we would fill in for him, and that was the first time I ever played guitar and sang in front of people. And I just did a bunch of covers. I went home, it was my Memorial Day weekend. I went home and I learned like 20 songs and played them, and I've just been playing out, mostly doing guitar now, acoustic guitar and singing at bars. Still doing it since then, so yeah, pretty much the local Chris and Marcy. I joined a band called Right Angle in high school it was me, my buddy Frankie Diana, kid Steve Got Going, that was his band, and another guy, Kenny Walsh, played bass. And we were an 80s band. I was playing keyboards, thought I was the shit. I was it. I was in high school, and I'm playing out at clubs on a Monday night. not realizing that a Monday night to play at a club is a crap night to play, but when you're 16, you're playing at a club, it's the greatest thing in the world. So, but I got to play the Channel before they closed, which is pretty cool. So 16, I started playing in bands. I was playing keyboards in bands. I played keyboards in bands up until I was about 30 years old. And then I transitioned over to guitar. Ed May, God rest his soul, he was a great guy. He was my 7th grade music teacher. And growing up, I was in school, I was always that kid that was always doing things for attention, whether it was good or bad. I was always loud, I was always vocal, I was always, standing up on desks and things like that. So people, and this is back in the 80s when schools, they didn't really, they didn't say he had ADHD, he's just dumb. Let's put him in the rubber room, so to speak. So I was pretty much just shunned and said, okay, we're just gonna let him skate by, and this is the kid that's not gonna be much. He just, he'll probably be in jail or, pumping gas. Not that there's anything wrong with pumping gas, but just not having a career, anything. We can't do much with him through his life. And we were in music class, and every music class in a junior high has a piano, so I went down behind the piano and I started playing Jump by Van Halen. That was really one of the first songs that I learned. And everybody just kind of stopped and looked, and he got out a video camera and just started videoing me. And I played Jump, and I played Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue, and I played some Journey. I actually played Don't Stop Believin' before Don't Stop Believin' was, the end-all be-all definitive song for Journey. Now I can't stand it. Played that, and he showed it to a couple of his classes, and it just kind of became one of those things where people, the older classmen in school, were kind of recognizing me and saying, oh, I saw you in music class, you were a kid playing Van Halen. And I was like, yeah, that was me. And it was cool. I kind of realized I could get the attention for not being just a jackass, but for being a musician and for being somebody with a little bit of talent at a younger age. And it kind of made me feel good about myself, and that's kind of what music did for me. So it elevated it, and a lot of the teachers started to see it, and they were like, wow, this kid's not that dumb after all. Maybe he's got a future ahead of him, whether it's, he's not going to be a banker or a scholar, but he could be a musician. He's really talented. So it went from there. And then I just did local bands, playing in cover bands. I did an oldies band in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, Classic 5, big band out of Waltham. They were like the huge thing. And then I got the job at a gig on radio, and I had to stop that, and then kind of stop music for a little while. Sold my keyboards, wasn't doing much. And then in about 2007, once I started getting back into playing guitar because of Chris and Marcy, that's when I started Boston garage bands and Bullethead. And this has taken me, it kind of catapulted me music-wise and involvement-wise to where I am today. Bullethead started, there's been a lot of members of Bullethead. Bullethead started back in 1991. It was 91? No, 89. Was a junior in high school and just got back from playing at Disney World with the show choir. I was in the school band, the singing group before Glee was popular, that's what it was. We got back from Florida, and my brother and his friend Dominic had picked me up at the airport, and they said, we're starting a band. You're gonna play bass. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm learning how to play bass. So we started the band, up in our playroom at my parents' house where we all still lived, and Dominic had never played the drums before. We had a little crappy drum kit from like the 50s that we had from my neighbor. And he learned to play drums, I learned to play bass, and we had a friend of his that played guitar, and that's where Bullethead started, was up in my playroom at my parents' house. And then we got a real bass player, and I started playing keyboards for a little while just to kind of change it up. But it was at the time when 80s and the 90s had meshed, and hair metal and grunge were kind of button heads, and I was still an 80s hair metal kid thinking everything should have keyboards in it, it's going to be awesome, and this is going to be fantastic. And the world was saying, no, we're going to have just one guitar, everybody's going to dress down, the music's going to be depressing, the vocals are going to get lower, they're not going to be this high-pitched, anything like that. So the music changed as I was just starting to get into music, and I refused to believe that it was going to change. I hated Pearl Jam when they came out. I thought they were the crappiest band in the world. Now they're one of my favorites. So it was a lot different. But that's how it started. It was me, my brother Eric, my friend Dominic, his friend Dominic, who's now become friends. My brother's only a couple of years older than me. and our friend Bill McClay, who I met through them. And so we that's how Bullethead started, and we did one show. They did one show. I never even did the show with them at Brandeis University, a radio show called The Joint. They used to do live music every Wednesday nights. And a friend of ours, Dave Ilsley, played on that. And actually after that, he joined the band Waltham, which just kind of, exploded. And now they toured the world. They just opened up for Rick Springfield at the House of Blues. But Dave was kind of the second bass player in Bullethead. And Bullethead stopped for years. And then in about 2006, I started writing more music and getting back into it, and decided I'm going to start a band. And what do I want to call it? I was like, well, I liked Bullethead. I liked the name Bullethead. I came up with the name Bullethead. It was based off an old Van Halen bootleg song that I had gotten from a bootleg CD back in the day, which is actually funny that now that song is on there, A Different Kind of You, or whatever that new crappy CD is they did with David Lee Roth, that they re-released that song. They re-recorded and re-released it. So, and now there's a Bullethead Van Halen tribute band and everything. It's like, no, we were Bullethead back in the 90s, man. So, so I started Bullethead. I recorded the entire CD downstairs in my basement at my house in Bellingham. I went and bought all the recording gear and bought a guitar, bought a bass, bought all the high-end compressor mics and everything, and recorded it all myself. I had a couple of friends play guitars with the guitar solos and stuff, because I can't solo to save my life. And that was the first Bullethead CD, and I sent it out to some people and said, here's my music, here's my band, do you want to be in it? And I wanted a female bass player for the project. I was a big fan of just something different, not having the same kind of guys, looking at 4 guys on stage. And at the time, I just started getting into interviewing bands, and I was a huge fan of the bands, like the Ann Watts and the Ale Marys, and they were all female bands. Like, I want a female bass player. That would be cool. So I started dating this girl, Kim, and her father was a bass player in a band back in the 50s. They had a record out and everything like that. So I gave her my bass, and she got a bass book, how to play. And within a matter of like 3 days, she learned to play the bass and play half of the songs on my CD, having never picked up an instrument in her life. And I was just totally blown away by that. So she played in the band for about 2 years. That was a bass player. And my friend George Moomjin, who's in the band now, he's been the drummer pretty much since the beginning. We had one drummer beforehand, Mike Dunny, and he went to school shortly after that. He was only 18, he went to college. We had Chris Allen in the band for a little while, and then Chris was more of a solo artist, so he went and did his own thing. And now we have Rob Tulare, and Rob's been with us ever since. And once Kim left, Glenn joined the band, Glenn Selmy, and it's kind of been me, George, Glenn, and Rob ever since. A Boy Named Sue is my Johnny Cash tribute band. I started that, I knew Bullethead was starting to wind down. I didn't have any more music in me. I wasn't writing anymore. I wasn't thinking of anything. And it's just, as a writer, when you get writer's block, you start to get depressed and discouraged. And I'm like, okay, you can only do this for so long. And I'm not a young guy. I don't want to be playing out in clubs at midnight, 2 a.m. for no money, wife and kids, or had at the time. I still have kids, but don't have the wife. It's a lot to do on a relationship to play out all these hours, and any musician will tell you it's a big strain on your life and on your relationship. So I always said that if I ever started a tribute band, I was going to do a Johnny Cash tribute band, because a lot of the bands that are out there that are doing tribute bands, they're all doing AC/DC, they're all doing Journey, they're all doing the same bands. It's like, okay, you can only have so many Guns N' Roses tribute bands. I'm not a fan of Guns N' Roses. I'm a fan of AC/DC. Yeah, it's great, but I can go see the real AC/DC. I never understood why there's a tribute band for a band when you can go see the real band. You can't go see Johnny Cash. He's dead. So, and I always did Johnny Cash when I played solo, acoustic shows, and people always loved it. And I was like, that's the band I'm going to start. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to start a Johnny Cash tribute band. So as Bullethead was starting to wind down, I told the guys in the band, I said, listen, this is probably our last year. I'm going to do a Johnny Cash tribute band. Do you guys want to do it with me? And George and Glenn said yes. The drummer and the bass player said yes. And Rob, his wife was just starting a new job, and they were having a new baby, and it just would have been a lot for him. So he had said he couldn't do it. So I ended up asking Mark McKellar of Age of End, great local band, who's a friend of mine I've gotten to know from Boston Garage Bands and NGB1, and he was a huge Johnny Cash fan, and he said, let me know whenever you guys are playing. I'd love to come see you. I'm like, how would you like to play with us? Because we don't have a guitarist. And he said yes. So Mark plays with us, And it's a fun thing to do. And everybody loves, I don't know anybody that doesn't like Johnny Cash. They tell you don't like Johnny Cash, I think they're a liar, because everybody loves at least one Johnny Cash song. And it's funny when I try to call some clubs or some place to play, like, well, we don't do country. It's like, Johnny Cash isn't country. You know, Johnny Cash isn't really a genre. He's everything. It's surprising that the amount of people that we see at a Cash show, it goes anywhere from 21 to 81. His music spans it. Everybody loves it. And it's a lot of fun, and that's why I did it. I want to have fun again in music, and this is a lot of fun to do. There's a big difference when I write music for a band versus writing it for myself. I can kind of tell as I'm writing the song which feel it has. I'm going to release this as a solo artist, or just, I say solo artist, but just, record it and toss it out on Bandcamp for people just to download for free, versus doing it as a Bullethead song. The first Bullethead CD was already written and done. So when we went about doing the second Bullethead CD, we would just come to practice and I would just start riffing on stuff, or Rob would riff on something. And we wrote the Celebrity Douchebag CD together as a band. I would come up with just little parts and he'd be like, oh, let's try this, and that. That's how the Celebrity Douchebag CD got written and went about that way. Now with some of the newer stuff that I'm doing, it's a lot different. I'm older, more things have happened to me, life has changed, as your writing style, my writing style has progressed. I like to say it's more mature, I guess, because life happens. So it's a little different from what I've done before, but it's still the same. I just kind of get inspiration from wherever I am. You'll hear the radio be on in the background and you think you hear what is playing and what it sounds like. And it's nothing like what it sounds like, but it sounds like that. So I'll be like, all right, cool, I heard this in my head. I'm gonna write this and put this into a song. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it's, no, that's already written. That's somebody else's song, you can't do that. But for the most part, you kind of sing it into your phone with the voice recorder, and I get 85 voice memos of little things, me going, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and just into the microphone, and then I go and I'll listen to it later and be like, what the hell was I thinking? Delete. Versus, oh, that's kind of cool, that's catchy, but so you don't forget anything. Because back in the day when you didn't have these things, it was, I have this great song in my head, I'm gonna remember it. And 10 minutes later, it's gone out of my head. So it's like, I could have wrote something great, or damn it. So, Election was probably the best song, my favorite song that I've written. It's a political song, obviously, and it was something that it's inspired me during the whole Obama, McCain, Clinton, election of 2008. And it was originally called Election 08. And I took the 08 out because it's something that, it's not just specific about that, but it's about how I feel about politics. I'm not political at all. I won't talk to you about politics. I try not to talk about politics. It's like, religion and politics you don't talk about, but I'll sing about it because I put it into my music. Because you can't argue with me about a song. We can sit in face to face and have an argument. Wars have started and people have gotten killed over religion and politics. And I think it's just two of the biggest problems that we have in the world, that people get so passionate about it that it causes all these issues. But with Election, when I wrote it, and I always did a big speech before I would play it out, and I just say, this song's about, it's a political song, and it's not about voting for the hype or believing the hype. It's voting for what's in your heart. And too many people say, I'm going to vote for the black guy because I think it'd be great, and I'm going to vote for the woman because there needs to be a woman president. It's like, no, don't just vote for them because of what they are. Vote for them because of who they are and what they stand for. Every politician's going to say, we got to focus on education and getting money back to the middle class. And, it's like this focal points that they all got to hit in every single speech that they give. And it's so generic and it's such bullshit. So when a politician actually comes out and says, this is what I'm going to do, everybody goes, he's erratic. He's not normal, he's horrible. And it's like, really? This guy's telling you how it is. So what the song is about, it's basically what I'm passionate about in politics. If that, this is what I want if I was gonna vote for somebody and what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for. And that's how I put it into the song. Support Local Music Boston, right now is kind of in a standstill pattern. I'm in the middle of a life transition, so I'm trying to scale back a little bit of what I'm doing, but I'm still active in helping promote bands and get bands out there. You know, if somebody wants to post something on my Facebook, I'll help promote it. I'll share it with the people that are following me, and you know, it's just trying to get the word out about local music. There's so much great local music out there, and that's why I started this whole thing back in 2007 with Boston Garage Bands, was to just spread the word about local music in any possible way that I can. Right now I'm doing something called the Tip of the Day. I try to do one at least once a day, where I'll just make a little picture on my phone, and you know, it just kind of says, you know, it's a tip for musicians. You know, make sure your guitar's in tune before you stop playing. And you throw it out there, put it on Instagram, or put it on Twitter, or put it on Facebook, and people like it, and people are following it, and people are starting to hashtag it, and starting to abide by it. I shouldn't say abide by it, but starting to kind of live by it and say, well, this is, you know, it's just good advice to give out to people, because I want to help. I want to be the guy that's helping people, not be the guy that's, you know, that's out for himself. So with Support Local Music Boston, it was just kind of, I was looking for an outlet to just get all these ideas out of my head. And you know, we'll do shows variously. I'd still do stuff at the West Ender. I'll still promote bands, and I still. You just shut that. It's not you guys running over there. It's just me. So Support Local Music Boston, I'm doing this. I did the shows at the West Ender. We did the open mic singer-songwriter competition, where, you know, twice a month people came down and performed, and we picked a winner each night. And then at the end of that, we did a big showcase, and at the end of that, somebody won $500. The West End has been great. Matt LeDuc at the West End has been a great friend to me, and he's helped me out a lot with helping me to get music out there. And we did stuff with him at the Lazy Dog in Marlborough. So I'm looking to probably do more stuff, you know, eventually more shows like that, to get back into doing shows. And I'd like to get back into doing more podcasts. We have the Support Local Music podcast on iTunes, which is a compilation podcast of just compilation of music, local music, where you can't, I don't want to put it out on CD because CDs cost money. Everybody's always asked, you're going to put it on CD? It's like, well, you're going to pay me for it? I don't want to charge you for it, but they're not free to press and burn and print and buy. So everything I do is I pretty much just podcast it up on iTunes or up on our Bandcamp page. Your Bandcamp behindthescenes.com, behindthescenes.bandcamp.com. Behind the Scenes was actually my old TV show that I did in 2012. It was like a web TV series that we did at the Music Around in Natick, which is another great store. Phil Chernon's been a great friend to me and to what we've done for music. Last summer we did a summer concert music series out in front of the new location that they have in Natick. We just did concerts on Sundays, just with, you know, 2 bands, and just, you know, blared it out to Route 9, and it was great. So just, I mean, best thing to do is just, you know, follow us on iTunes, look up Support Local Music Boston or Boston Garage Bands on iTunes. I'm probably going to start getting back into doing more with that. But it's just about getting local music out there. It's about supporting local music, not just in Boston, but just everywhere, all over the place. Yes, I'm currently I work on new stuff all the time. I hear things in my head, and with the way life is going right now, songs are coming into my head left and right. So I've been writing an awful lot. Whether or not it'll see the light of day, I don't know. A lot of it, say 100% of it, hasn't been heard, performed out in front of people or anything. So I was hoping to do it with Bullethead, as a new Bullethead album. But things just happened, and we couldn't get our schedules to connect right now. So I kind of just said, you know what, guys, let's not do this right now. It's hard. Everybody can't get together. You know, it's one less stress that I have on myself right now and in my life. So I'm just going to say no for it right now. And I just kind of started just recording the stuff myself to see what comes of it, and if it's good, if I like it. If not, I'll just junk it. So yes, I am currently writing. God only knows. And actually, he doesn't even know. I haven't even told him. None of it, there's only really 1 or 2 songs that are done, that are completed, that I have finished. And as a musician, I'll tell you, no song's ever completed. You always hear it and you want to go back and redo it and redo it and redo it. But I have like 2 or 3 that I finished, and then I'm like, okay, this is done. I'm going to put them down. I'm not going to work on them anymore. Let's put those over here. They're in the completed pile. So I'm hoping, as a song, just acoustically, I can release them in an hour. Just record it, just me with my guitar and sing it. But as far as doing it as a big, full production, with guitars and drums and everything else that I'm hearing in my head, in it, who knows? I'd like to say within the year, but who knows? Inspiration for young musicians, probably the best advice would be the one that I wish somebody had given me, and don't get a big head and think you're awesome, because you're not. There's somebody else out there better than you, smarter than you, that writes better than you, that plays better than you. Just play your music. Be yourself and don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to be another artist. Don't try to be bigger than you are. Don't have an attitude. Be respectful. Show up on time. Leave late. Be the guy or the girl that always says thank you to the people that hosted the show and compliments the other bands on the music, whether or not you like them or not, because you never know. That band could progress and become better than you someday, and you're going to be stuck there saying, ah, and you don't want that. Be respectful, always be on time, and don't be big-headed. I have a new song that I can play. It's it'll be a little different than what I'm hearing in my head, of course, but I'm definitely excited and looking forward to kind of debuting it right here on your show. This song's called Life is Beautiful. I wrote it, I had the idea for the song a couple of years ago when raising a teenage daughter isn't the easiest thing in the world, and kids are always depressed and they're sad and everything's the end of the world and everything. I was like, just life's good, man. Just relax. And then I started writing the song about her and a teenager's life and struggles, and then stuff started happening to me, and I'm like, okay, it's not just teenagers things happen to. So it kind of morphed into a song not just about her and her life, but me and my life, or anybody in their life. It's just it's from the point of somebody always looking at the downside of things. It's like, yeah, life gets down sometimes, but it's also beautiful. Life is also beautiful no matter what. Take a look around you and see what's out there and have a good time with it and enjoy it. And yeah, we all have our demons and we all have that dark place that we go to in our life, but at the end of it all, there's something in there for you, and you'll realize it. And so this is Life is Beautiful, and I'm really nervous because I may screw this up. I'm not a lead guitarist at all, so playing single notes for me is like I'm all thumbs. So this beginning may sound like crap, but I warned you. Stranger that lives down beside you, and it comes out when there's no place to hide. It's like the feeling you get when you're angry, and when the whole world's not on your side, and you fuss and you fight and you struggle, but no one ever sees things like you do. It's like the fate of the world is crashing around. Did you ever think that the problem is you? Why can't you see that life is beautiful? There's a light at the end of the tunnel that burns as bright as a candle at dawn. It's like an lower thing you scared me, and you think everything is wrong, and you think that it's all just because of, and then the world isn't going for you. But you're getting it all, and you're seeing it all. Well, can't you see that life is beautiful? Well, why can't you see that life is beautiful? Can't you see that life is beautiful? beautiful. Can't you see that life is beautiful? Oh, why can't you see that life is beautiful? What I want people to take from the song is that yeah, life does suck sometimes. You get down, you get low. I've hit lows. I've been as low as probably you can get. I was hospitalized for depression a couple years ago, and it sucked. And it was a scary, scary, scary place being in an adult psych ward with people that I didn't know that were in there for real problems. And there was something else on the outside for me that was better than what was on the inside. It's like, okay, I don't have this big of problems. There's more to life than feeling down about yourself. You know, I never turned to alcohol or drugs for my issues. I had my other, source of addictions. And I've listened and I think about it with myself, like, okay, is it worth it to go down that dark path again and screw your life up versus enjoying life for what it is right now with the people who care about you and the people that love you and make it what it needs to be. It is beautiful. Life can suck sometimes and it's hard, and you work a crap job and you don't make enough money, and you look at your paycheck each week and it's like, really, half my paycheck's gone for every taxes and everything else. But it's, you open up the door and there's the sun shining and there's the people that you love, and you got the woman or the guy in your life that care about you and that they love you and they want to be with you. And I'm not dead. I still have a roof over my head. I got a car. There are people worse off than me, and everybody has their own problems, but these are my problems, and nobody else is going to help me with these. So I have to realize that it's a beautiful world, and I have people that support me, and everybody has somebody that can support them no matter who it is and no matter what. So that's kind of what I want to take from it. No matter what happens, it could be worse, because you could be dead, you could be in the ground, and that's the ultimate low. It's not that bad. It's kind of beautiful. So thank you for watching Music Note TV. I hope you guys, got something out of it. Who the hell knows? But you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram, it's just Support Local Music Boston. Up on Twitter at SLM Boston. I had to kind of shorten it a little bit. And follow me on Facebook at Support Local Music Boston. Up on Facebook, we have the tip of the day, which is very popular. It's always good, and everybody wants to get in touch with me for some shows and things like that on one of those platforms. So thank you very much. Oh, and download my music for free, because I wouldn't ask you to pay for it. Support Local Music Boston /JeffRoyds.com. SupportLocalMusicBoston.com/JeffRoyds. There you go. Thank you. I make enough of an ass of myself.